Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we are debating two very different amendments on gas prices that are up for a vote tomorrow. We have the proposal of the minority leader that is full of old ideas that will not work and will do absolutely nothing to affect gas prices now or in the future. In fact, the only provision in the minority leader's amendment that would do anything to lower gas prices is lifted directly from the Democratic plan to lower gas prices. This is the provision to temporarily suspend filling the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. In response, the majority leader has offered a clean amendment to temporarily suspend filling the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. This is one of the few options we have to address the pain at the pump our constituents are facing right now. Now, every time my friends on the other side of the aisle decide to pay attention to our energy crisis, their solution is always the same: help big oil. In 2005, they authored energy provisions that gave ExxonMobil and other oil giants lavish subsidies that totaled over $14 billion. And these companies are reaping the rewards with record profits announced every quarter. ExxonMobil recently announced $11 billion in profits over a 3-month period. To put that in context, this means ExxonMobil's yearly profit this year might well be almost twice the annual budget of the Department of Energy. The authors of these proposals argue that if we simply shovel more taxpayer money in the direction of oil companies, that this money will eventually trickle down to the people. But as we have all too often seen, it does not. Gasoline prices are now over $3.70 per gallon, and the specter of $4 per gallon gasoline is looming just around the corner. While oil companies hoard their windfall profits, the American people are suffering. Yet my friends on the other side of the aisle do not want real relief for the country. They only want to protect big oil's huge profits at any cost by opening up every environmentally sensitive area in the country to drilling. Now, President Bush was right when he said that we are addicted to oil. But what amazes me is that the President's party is unaware that they continue to act like addicts. Instead of supporting real plans to conserve oil or even transition to sustainable fuels, they go out in search of their next oil fix. Now, some claim that the way to lower gas prices is to end a bipartisan 26-year moratorium to open up the outer continental shelf to oil exploration and just drill, drill, and drill. But the Energy Information Administration projects that even if we opened up the entire outer continental shelf to drilling off the East Coast, off the West Coast, and opened up the entire eastern Gulf of Mexico, nothing would happen to gas prices. Why? First, because production would not begin before the year 2017. The infrastructure to drill for oil is not just a large oil platform, but a network of hundreds of miles of pipeline to transport oil from the platform onto land and then onto refineries. This kind of infrastructure simply does not exist on the East Coast and in only limited exceptions on the West Coast. The second reason why opening up all our shores to oil drilling will not lower gas prices is because by the time full production actually ramped up in the year 2030, drilling off all of our coasts full tilt would only result in a whopping 3% increase in domestic production. And even in 2030, as our continent is rung all the way around by oil platforms, all of this new supply would be eaten up by a 7% increase in domestic demand. The Energy Information Administration predicts that, and I quote, "Any impact on average wellhead prices is expected to be insignificant." So even opening up all of our coasts to drilling, as the minority leader proposes, will have no impact on gas prices at all. As you can see by this chart, the federal government has been issuing more and more lease permits for drilling, but at the same time, the price of gasoline has continued to rise. In fact, over 80% of the resources in the Outer Continental Shelf are already open for exploration. Since 2001, the Bush administration has issued over 100 new leases. Many of these leases are in the Eastern Gulf, where the oil industry already has much of the infrastructure necessary to go into production. But only 12 of these new wells have been drilled. The industry is only developing a small fraction of the area already open for drilling. Why isn't ExxonMobil pumping some of its profits into developing these areas? If companies are not interested in developing the large fields already open in the Gulf of Mexico, why is it so critical to open up environmentally sensitive areas to more drilling? Mr. President, one might say that it is just to be expected that those on the side of big oil would use this sort of rhetoric in an election year, but it's much worse than that. The McConnell Amendment could be both economically and ecologically devastating. If you look at a picture here taken after a recent oil spill in San Francisco, this is what we can routinely be facing if we allow widespread drilling on the Outer Continental Shelf. We could see our beaches closed for business because of oil spills. You know, my home state of New Jersey, our shore is a precious treasure that my state would protect at any cost. But the shore also generates tens of billions of dollars in revenues each year and supports almost 500,000 jobs. It simply makes no sense to jeopardize a tourism and fishing economy worth tens of billions of dollars in exchange for a cumulative total of only a half year's supply of oil. The people of New Jersey cannot afford the risk of millions of gallons of oil washing up on our beaches. This is not just a New Jersey problem. Florida's beaches generate billions of dollars each year. In South Carolina, Myrtle Beach alone brought in $3 billion in revenues. Do we really want oil washing up onto the pristine Cape Hatteras National Seashore? What about Virginia Beach? Can Maryland's famous blue crab survive yet another environmental assault? The bottom line is the minority leader's proposal will do nothing to lower gas prices, but it will jeopardize coastal economies all along both coasts. Is there anything we can responsibly do to ease the pain of such high gas prices? The answer is a resounding yes. One important way to address oil prices that I hope we'll be debating more fully in the next week or so is to better regulate oil markets. Many analysts that have testified before the relevant House and Senate committees agree that based on pure supply and demand, the price of oil should be somewhere between $50 and $70 a barrel. So why are we hitting $125 a barrel? In part because of excessive speculation on future markets. And unlike other markets, such as the commodities involving corn or soybean futures, oil is being traded around the globe with little or no oversight by the U.S. government. If the Enron disaster teaches us anything, it should be that markets cannot be allowed to operate without real oversight. In the upcoming weeks, when the Senate debates the comprehensive Democratic plan to address runaway gas prices, one of the most important aspects of that package will be increased regulation of oil markets so we can effectively combat excess speculation and any possible market manipulation. Another important measure to bring short-term relief to the pain at the pump is the Majority Leader's amendment, which will be voted on tomorrow. This amendment would suspend filling the Strategic Petroleum Reserve at least through December of this year. When the people of this country are suffering on almost $4 a gallon of gas, when gas prices are pushing up the cost of food, when the price of oil per gallon is broken $125 a gallon, why would we be burying these precious commodity when we need it the most? We should stop pouring all that oil into a hole in the ground until the price of crude oil recedes to $75 or less. This will truly help drive gas prices back down by increasing supply and offer some immediate relief to Americans. It's very important that we look at these proposals. Even Jim Woolsey is fond of saying, by buying oil in such huge quantities and at such high prices, we're funding both sides of the war on terror. So, Mr. President, it seems to me that if we want to do something about kicking our addiction, we don't go after more of it. We move in a different direction. We suspend the Strategic Petroleum Reserve that was already 97% full. We have that opportunity tomorrow. And then we look at market speculation and these other elements of a truly broad-based effort that preserves our natural resources, preserves the economy that those natural resources generate, as the New Jersey Shore does, and then ultimately achieves the goal of not only driving down the cost of gas, but at the same time move us in a different direction to break our dependency. I ask unanimous consent that my full statement be entered into the record.
Without objection.
And with that, I yield the floor.